Scorsese, and more cultural phenomena. Unbelievable artists and creators that shape our culture with their paintings, music, acting, or with their ability to jump between the arenas. Stay tuned for our next interview with designer, filmmaker, and creative powerhouse, kidsuper.
Okay, so I guess, can you hear me? There's no audio.
No, you're good. You're good. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Hi, Berlin Fashion Film Festival 2021. I'm Amanda saying hello from Paris, and today I have the pleasure of talking to Colm Dillon, aka kidsuper, tuned in directly from Brooklyn, New York. So, hi, Colm. You're a multidisciplinary artist. You pull off art shows, couture shows. You have also collaborated with Puma, and you know how to knit, how to paint, how to make claymation movies. So there seems to be no artistic arena that you haven't entered yet. So we're very happy to have you on here today. And I guess my first question for you is, how do you manage to, throughout the years, have kept this really fresh outlook on art and on, I guess, life in general? And in 2020 especially, how did you stay optimistic and inspired?
Yeah, I think for me, I always was dreaming of opportunities, So like when I was younger, when I first started kind of making clothing or making art, there wasn't too many doors open for people that wanted to hear what I had to say in terms of an artistic medium. So I'm constantly inspired by these opportunities, So for example, each year as I progress, or some door opens up or some door closes. So I am constantly excited. I'm like, oh my God, I get to do this. Oh, I can do this. So that, and I like to challenge myself to see what is and what's not possible. So for example, this Paris Fashion Week entire concept was kind of outlandish and far-fetched initially, and was a huge challenge coming from someone from Brooklyn who had no connection with anybody in Paris. It seemed like it wasn't going to work out. And for me, that was inspiring. I was like, okay, we don't have the budget. We don't have the connections. How are we going to make a splash within this fashion show world that has historically been so closed off and exclusive? So yeah, I mean, and for me, it's always fun to kind of prove people wrong or do the unexpected. And so I never am losing ideas or losing enthusiasm. It's more, I have so many ideas. What can I accomplish?
Yeah, and it makes me think of the name of your shows, like Everything is Fake Until It's Real. Can you just tell me the story behind these names, and how do you pick like each theme for the shows?
Yeah, I think for me, and I don't know if for every brand, but these fashion shows are hugely significant because of the financial burden, the emotional, physical, it's just a really hard project. And I've done many projects before on completely different mediums. And I think these fashion shows are one of the most stressful because you're working to one moment that can go completely wrong. And there's hundreds of people involved, and you're trying to pull all these strings. So since they're so important and they kind of mean so much for me, the names are important. So the first one was Bull in a China Shop.
Mm-hmm.
And that for me kind of represented what kidsuper was, which is kind of crashing and doesn't really belong, and how much, but also making a lot of noise. So it's like, how can we be this bull where we don't belong? It doesn't make sense, but at least we're here breaking up something. And then the next one was called Running as Fast as You Can. And I didn't know if I was going to do the second one. So the first one I did, and I got this amazing write-up in Vogue. And then I applied to the official calendar, and they said no again. So I had gotten 2 rejections, and I was kind of like, man, we did so good the first time. Like, what more could they want in terms of press and quality and everything? And so I was like, am I going to do this second one? The first one was so difficult. And then I was like, look, on a day-to-day basis, am I running as fast as I can? Am I doing the most I can do? And I was like, maybe not. And I was like, we called this brand Kid Super. We have to be superheroes. We should push ourselves to be the best, push ourselves to succeed, or push ourselves to be in places to succeed. So I was like, fuck it, we got to do it. So that's where the running as fast as we can show came. And there was a moment in that show where someone slipped and fell. And that's like every designer's like worst nightmare. And it was hilarious because so it's called running as fast as you can. And I put paint, like a bucket of paint, and the models would step on paint and walk out. And I wanted to leave a track that slowly got more and more paint on it. And by the end, there'd be a track of where everyone walked. But the venue was like, you can't do this on our floor. And I was like, okay, is there anything else I can do? They're like, if you put plastic, it's okay. So I covered the ground in plastic, and then I put paint. So it was basically just a slip and slide for these models. So they were slipping everywhere, but one guy fell. And I remember everyone was like, because it's embarrassing for me, but it's like everyone knows it's embarrassing. So they feel like awkward watching it. And so I came out at the end, and usually designers don't speak, but I think they should speak. So I spoke, and I was like, sometimes you slip and fall, but you got to get up. This whole story was about running as fast as you can. So I kind of pulled it all together, and people at the end were like, was it on purpose that people were falling? And I was like, yes, it was on purpose. And then the last one was if it's real, it's fake until it's real. And that one was about kind of like, I invented Kid Super, you know what I mean? So it didn't exist. It was this fake idea, and everybody didn't think, or you didn't know if it was going to be serious or not. And then all of a sudden you created this like real project, real brand out of nowhere. And I think that related to kind of, there's these fake inanimate objects modeling this clothes, but actually I think it was one of the more real fashion shows in a very long time. So yeah, those are the names.
Yeah, you had Stephen Hawking
Right.
pieces, you had Salvador Dali. How did you pick all these people? Are they all like big inspirations of yours?
Yeah, so every time I do a fashion show, I'm trying to get my best friends or people that I love to walk. And because I always thought it was like, a model and a regular person, I don't think you look that different in terms of clothing. You only see their head, and usually it's covered with makeup. So I never really understood the like need for a model. And I was like, I don't want to talk to any of these models. I mean, obviously some models are interesting, but it would be better if the cast of the fashion show was people I wanted to talk to. So for this show, it was like kind of all my idols and people that I would have in a perfect world would be the catwalk.
Wow. And if you had to like pick one of all these different personalities that you chose, which one would you pick to like
I'm
project with?
a project, probably Salvador Dali. But I do love soccer, and I'm a huge Ronaldinho fan, and that's possible. So that's good. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of good characters, but yeah, Dali. I was just watching an interview with Dali last night, and I want to be able to speak the way he spoke,
Yeah.
but I'm clearly failing currently.
Well, um, so you were talking about how the fashion show in Paris has so much money and it's a big production, etc.
Right.
So in a collaboration like the one you did with Puma, how did you manage to really keep some sort of artistic freedom and make sure to be able to express yourself with such a big commercial brand?
So it's funny that I get this question I've gotten it before. And I think now more than ever, I have the leverage. They're trying to collaborate with a smaller, quirkier, unique artistic brand because that's what they don't have. So when I was going in these meetings, I was pitching them 100 ideas. I was like, we need to do a soccer cleat. I need to da 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 da. And they were so responsive. So it wasn't the like stereotypical corporate relationship. They were very on board and kind of let me do whatever I wanted. I don't know if you got a chance to see, but we did a 30-minute cartoon.
I did. I was gonna ask you about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was amazing was that it was like Corona COVID happened, right? And we were going to do like an event where it was going to be a soccer tournament to release the collection. And then COVID happened and they were like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I've always wanted to make a cartoon and this is the perfect chance. And they were like, okay, what are you thinking? Like a 30-second, 1-minute video? And I was like, yeah, let me just work on this for a little bit. And I sent them back a script for a 30-minute like cartoon pilot. And they're like, what the, like, how are you going to pull this off? And I was like, well, if you give me the budget, I can make it work. So they gave me the budget. I made it work. And it's what's amazing about that is I'm now pitching that cartoon to different networks or people, and potentially I can get a TV show with a cartoon. And I used my Puma budget to sponsor it. So it was pretty cool.
So you have literally a building in Brooklyn that's dedicated to kidsuper, and it seems to be the playground for so many artists from all backgrounds and all disciplines. And it made me think a lot about the Andy Warhol factory. So can you tell me if there's a link? And also, how do you keep everyone who's in the building super inspired yet focused?
So when I remember reading about Andy Warhol era, right? And my mom's kind of from that era, and she lived in New York, so she kind of experienced that era. And she'd always ask me, Colin, why am I not doing enough artwork? Why am I not focusing on paintings? And I'm like, Mom, when do you have to make some money? How did you pay for rent? And she was like, in the 70s, my rent was $75 a month, and I used to get tipped $80 for waitressing in Wall Street. She was like, I would be done making my rent in 2 days. And then she was like, the rest of the time I'd be working on my art. And I always wanted to create that kind of spirit that you hear, like Andy Warhol was best friends with Madonna, who was there, and Tupac, and everybody was in this kind of crazy group and everyone knew each other. So I was like, man, why doesn't that exist today? And so I got this store when I was in college, and I remember the first probably 3 months of the store, it was just a normal retail, and I was just sitting there waiting for people to come in, and nobody was coming in because the brand wasn't known. It's not in like the best location. It's not in the best location. I was like, man, I created this store. Why don't I just make it what I've always wanted it to be? So I spent the next like 6 months kind of building it out into like a workspace for creatives. I built a recording studio. I did all this. And then it became this kind of hub for creativity, kind of what I always wanted to create. So yeah, I was definitely inspired by the Andy Warhol factory. I just wish my rent was the same as his. But yeah, I think the New York City government our governments around the world should fund and sponsor these kind of buildings.
Definitely. Yeah. And when did you kind of realize that things were picking up for kidsuper and that suddenly the world of fashion was watching?
It was very much like
Progressive?
there wasn't one aha moment, and there still isn't an aha moment. Yeah, I remember one day I was like, man, nobody's wearing my clothes. I don't understand why, because I had some friends that had brands and they were all getting worn. And then like a year later, every rapper was wearing the clothes and nothing changed. The thing that changed was the assistant stylist that I was working with now became the official stylist. The kid that I knew now became a successful rapper, you know what I mean? So everyone grew up together. So I had built these relationships in New York City that were just authentic, that now became powerful people. So that's how people started wearing kidsuper, which was cool.
And how do you find talents that you young artists that then you ask to come to the Kids Super Studios, or do they come to you? How does it happen?
It's a combination of both. We'll see somebody, it's pretty random to be honest, and then it'll just work. Sometimes it doesn't work and you're like, wow, I hate this person. And sometimes you're like, wow, this person's amazing. Yeah, I mean, that's another thing is like, no one talks about starting a business and working with people as and navigating different personalities, but that's always a quite difficult thing. So especially when you have so many people in one place and everybody has their own little egos and stuff, and so that's been hard. And a lot also when you have no money early on, that sometimes gets complicated, but overall it's been amazing. I always say this, but the best thing about Kid Super has been the people I get to meet and then ultimately collaborate with. So even you're in Paris. Next time I'm in Paris, you can introduce me to an amazing restaurant, and that's a big win.
So you're preparing a new show, right?
Correct.
Talking. Can you take us a little bit behind the scenes? Tell us about the theme, maybe?
Yeah, so it's
How-
virtual again, which
Okay.
I actually prefer in terms of like it's just easier and there's way more possibilities, you know. Fashion shows are pretty straightforward and difficult. Um and um I what was I saying? So yeah, okay, for this one we're going to do a short film. So I've always basically anything I want to do, I just make it focused in. So like for the Puma thing, I wanted to make a cartoon, so I made it a Puma cartoon. For this one, I've always wanted to shoot a short film, so I'm going to make it a fashion show short film. So yeah, it's just like kind of little vignettes of cool, interesting people in New York, and then they're all wearing Kid Super. We'll see if I can pull it off. Um, they, I'm shooting Saturday, Sunday. It's due Wednesday is my premiere. So I shoot Saturday, Sunday. I edit all Monday. Tuesday, I'm going to do color and sound. Hopefully, Wednesday morning, I can submit it.
Wow. And why
Yeah.
did you choose filmmaking in particular as opposed to other mediums that you could be using?
Yeah. I think I read like I watched an interview a couple years ago, but they were saying film is the combination of so many different art mediums. So you have the clothing aspect, you have the painting aspect, you have the photography aspect, you have the storytelling. So I always thought that that was potentially the next progressive thing, is making films and stuff. So we'll see. Usually I think filmmakers are a little bit more prepared. But I think this is a cool like dipping my toes into filmmaking, because if all goes wrong and it still looks beautiful and the clothes look beautiful, it still works for this fashion show. So yeah, and I always wanted to do it, and I think you can get a little bit bored or like jaded if you're continuously doing the same thing. So luckily for this, I'm just as excited for this fashion show as I was for the other two or four or whatever I've done.
And
Five.
did you write a script or
Yeah,
anything?
so I have a script.
Okay.
um I can send it to you guys.
Love
You can review it. um no, the script's kind of funny. There's a little bit of dialogue, there's a little bit of voiceover. um I'm gonna be in it, I think. I don't know if you've seen Eddie Murphy movies, but
Yeah.
he usually plays all the characters. So
Mhm.
I was like, maybe I'll Eddie Murphy this and it'll be way easier because I won't have to cast and we don't have to worry about COVID. But I'm not Eddie Murphying this.
Real actors, or is it? Are they your friends gonna?
No, they're gonna be my friends.
Okay.
And then people that look like the character. There's like an old like Russian butcher that looks like he's killed 10 people. So I need to find him. And then I need to find like 5 Chinese like there's a chess players.
Okay.
So it's like that. It's like just a little bit of interesting people wearing kid super clothes.
Okay. And do you think that, because you seem to be collaborating all the time with whether it be with friends or other artists, so do you think that creating is just a lot more interesting when it's done through collaborations and thinking together, etc.?
It just makes things more possible.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what I said initially, but possibility is everything. Opportunity is everything. So for collaborations, for me, it was a no-brainer, and now it's hilarious. I like when I was younger, all I wanted to do was collaborate and meet people and work on things and da da da. And now it's like become the most popular thing. You know, you see everyone's dropping a collab left and right. But for me, yeah, it was about interesting, and you get inspired by it. You're like, oh, I didn't know this was possible. Oh, okay, let's do this. Oh, blah blah blah. Like for example, the Puma collaboration.
Mm-hmm.
My dream is to have a kid super building that has a soccer field on the roof. That's my dream. And I pitched it to them and I was like, look, instead of spending our marketing money on a stupid party, let's spend it on building a soccer field in New York. And I had this whole presentation and I like it's PDF of why it all worked and PowerPoint. And they were like, yeah, that sounds cool. And I was like, really? They're like, yeah, like if you can find the building, like we'll support this. And I was like, oh my God, like imagine if I never pitched that, you know what I mean? Or imagine if I wasn't kind of shooting for the stars. So that's maybe my next project. We'll see if it works. If I can get a building with a soccer field on the roof,
Pretty
I
amazing.
don't think I need to talk to anyone ever again.
You wanted to create your own soccer team, right? At one point.
Yeah. So I have a small kid super soccer team. So I grew up playing soccer. So I know everyone in New York who plays soccer. Um, and so we have a little kid super soccer team. And the goal would be to bring that to the MLS or whatever. I don't
Wow.
know. I mean, that would be incredible. It's very hard, but yeah.
Well, okay, so I think that to end this discussion, I would like to know in 5 words
Ooh,
what comes next for Kid Super.
5 words.
5 words.
I should. I, I have to name the fashion show, so it would be good if I had named it 5 words. But the name for now, which is probably more than 5 words, but I think it'll work. Um, it's a uh, if the plan doesn't work, you're insane. If the plan works, you're a genius. I think that's like 10 words, but that's my sign off quote. But I think that's going to be the title of the fashion show. It's a little long, but fuck it. Um, but I think that's very true. It's like people are often trying for things and it's like, oh, that'll never work. You're insane. And then all of a sudden you pull it off and you're like, oh my God, they're a genius. And nothing really changed but the outcome. So
It relates back to I saw on your Instagram that you made a Jean-Paul Sartre puffer jacket.
yes, the
Him?
hero makes himself heroic, the coward makes himself cowardly. Couldn't agree with that more. I wish I invented that quote. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think that's kind of where it is. It's like you're not born a coward or born a hero, and you're not always a hero and you're not always a coward. There's always moments to change it. And I think I always relate this back to soccer, but if you give the captain band to a person who didn't expect it, I think they will build up to that captain moment and ultimately become the captain. Obviously, it doesn't work all the time, but there are moments for you to make the hero that you have within you.
Mm-hmm. That
So
kind of, yeah, summarizes your whole project of Kid Super.
correct. That's yeah, you're making me feel better about the name now. Maybe
I think it's a great name.
I think it's a good name too. Um but yeah, what else are you I loved all the videos from the first Berlin fashion. I was inspired by all the other contestants.
There's an amazing selection.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
and you have a nice background.
Thank you.
Looks very like
We
movie.
share a little bit. Yes, we have Anna Karina and then
Okay,
red flowers.
that's good.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us today. It was incredible to discuss this whole kidsuper universe with you. And
Next time I'm in Paris or Berlin, I do a lot of stuff with Jägermeister, so they take me to Berlin a lot. So hopefully one time we can all meet in person.
definitely.
Thank you. As I said before, hopefully see you guys in Berlin.
Good morning. It's 8 o'clock. Outside, it's 24 degrees. Chucky's heartbeat is on a perfect average. You have no meetings today, and we are 7 days left to Fashion Week. Are you ready? You are not walking, you are catwalking. Walk like